That's right, yeah, I got an agenda. And it's your money that I'm gonna spend, yeah. Am I real? Well, I guess it depends.
Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you want to where it's all gonna end, yeah? You can feel me, we never want to defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that Labour party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever want to defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever want to defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever want to defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debts and childhood poverty. Will somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever want to defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah?
Do you wonder where it's all going to end, yeah? Do you wonder where it's all going to end? My brother Jamal, I telling you, and I telling you, but you no listen. And now, I don't know what or how to describe McMahon's actions this morning. For a long time now, it has been widespread in the news that James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was facing the sack. And on the morning of the reshuffle, of Keir Starmer's shadow cabinet reshuffle, instead of, well, am I allowed to say it? Maybe in this new progressive world it's wrong. Instead of facing it like a man is what I was going to say. But what we've seen what we've seen is JIM McMAHON write an email, put an email and write a letter, resigning before he was sacked or demoted. He is sacked, isn't it? So let's have a look at how the day played out. And also how we got here and what it means. So bear with me, I've put a presentation together of sorts. If I can get it working, which is the increasingly challenging challenge I have with this Bear with me, I'll get there. It's been a lovely day. I think my friend Evan put up some and it got me singing that song. It's gonna be oh bugger. I do need to invest in some I don't know what's wrong with it. Probably an official Apple wire. They cost more money, don't they, the official ones? There's some form of life. Is anything going to happen? No. Lazarus too, coming to Oldham. Just hold on a second. I'll get there. Let me bring this over here. Let me do that. No, it's not having it. It is absolutely not playing at all. Let me turn my iPad off and on. That might do it. You'll have to just bear with me whilst I get through these technical glitches if I can. Here's my wire. That's at fault. That's a very good question, isn't it, Darren? Because I think that's the first question I want to ask, because I don't think it's fair on the people of the town. I don't think it's fair on the people of the town at all. Burnham will not come to Oldham. He will not dare come to Oldham. He won't want this fight. There is not a chance in hell Burnham will want this fight. No, it's not having it. Okay, I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. I'll talk you through what's happened today. So, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon, Shadow Environment Minister. We call him, I mock him. I know I mock him. I call him Shadow Minister for Sewage because his key agenda has been around the sewage scandal and attempting to raise awareness on how the Conservatives have dumped insane amounts of raw sewage into our rivers. And I agree. I agree. And it's also to do with the privatising of water. But what really should happen is we should nationalise our water. There are key essential services that should be nationalised. But of course, the Tory Light Party, which is what really Labour are, won't nationalise water. So they'll just talk nonsense anyway. Where it all started to go wrong for McMahon was he was put in charge of the election in Hartlepool. And Hartlepool was one of the constituencies, it was a by-election, where Labour were meant to romp home. And McMahon was put in charge of Hartlepool. And McMahon failed to win Hartlepool. And he immediately blamed Angela Rayner for dressing inappropriately in the lead up to the by-election. Apparently she turned up and dressed inappropriately, and that's why they lost the election. Now, not known to many of you is they're not liked, Angela Rayner and McMahon, even though they're both Oldham constituencies. They're not really on the best of terms. So, what happened was Jim McMahon lost Hartlepool, and he'd been given that role because of his massive majority. He'd been given that role because of his massive majority in Oldham. He has a 25,000 block vote in the town. So he'd been given that, where those in London thought, well, he must be doing something right. But Hartlepool doesn't have the ethnic minority demographics that Oldham does. So the block vote doesn't operate here, and he lost Hartlepool. And it was the sort of first time the national figures in the Labour Party looked to McMahon and started to question his competency as an MP. Of course, all the time the grooming gang scandal had been going on in the background, and he's been maintaining it's a far-right conspiracy, barefaced lies. It's a Labour Party mantra. So that they know about. So McMahon comes along, and in the Shadow Minister for Sewage role, he wasn't doing that badly. I'll be honest with you, he wasn't doing that badly. Now, they've been, for the last 6 months or so, they've been trying to say he's been doing badly. And this is the Labour Party. And that's why he was getting demoted. I don't believe that's why he was getting demoted. I believe the real reason why he was getting demoted was because Keir Starmer and those who want to rule this country, because that's what Keir Starmer's reshuffle now is what he believes will be the team that will get him over the line to win the next general election. They didn't want Jim McMahon on it because of the scandal in Oldham. And so we're clear, that scandal in Oldham is the cover-up of the gang rape of working-class white girls by predominantly Pakistani, occasionally Bangladeshi men. Shabir Ahmed, the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang, we exposed as an employee of Oldham Council and a senior Oldham Labour Party figure. Now, you can argue with me all day if you want that there wasn't a cover-up, but what you can't argue with me is that the authorities, and that includes the council that Jim McMahon was leader of, failed working class white girls who were gang raped, systematically gang raped. You can argue with me it wasn't a cover-up, but you can't argue with me that the council didn't know and didn't tell parents. The council did know and still didn't tell parents. They didn't tell schools either. And if you read Andy Burnham's assurance review, and you critique it rather than just read the headlines in the newspapers and actually read the document, buried within it is clear evidence of what an ordinary person, you and I, would call a cover-up. Now, what we've got in at Oldham that is different to anywhere else, is that we have got a clear mandate to campaign and hold to account and even remove politicians. So everywhere else where the cover-up has been exposed or the failings have been exposed, the newspapers came in, Sky or whatever, BBC, they came and did their stuff and disappeared and nothing changed. But in Oldham, as a consequence of this platform and your engagement, what we've been doing is holding the politicians to account at the ballot box, and we've removed leader after leader after leader, and it set off serious alarm bells. in the Labour Party. So JIM McMAHON issued a letter, knowing full well he was being moved on. I mean, Sophie Ridge, I shared it with you 2 months ago before the summer holidays, put him under pressure and announced how news was coming through of how he was being sacked, live on Sky on a Sunday. And nothing, and at the time, there was no reference to any illness or any threats of violence. He was attempting to defend his position. And say what a good job it was and how the position of Environment Minister was coveted and all of that. Now, what then took place was this morning he publishes a letter resigning. And he cites illness. He won't detail what that illness is, but he cites illness as to why he's resigning. Knowing full well in the background, as recently as last night, the BBC and other mainstream news outlets were reporting that he was likely to be sacked. He cites illness. Now, if he was ill, and this illness goes back to October last year. Now, if he's been ill since October last year, why did he continue until the morning of the reshuffle to announce his resignation? If we are to believe JIM McMAHON, and that illness is the reason, why did he wait until the morning of the reshuffle to announce his resignation? From my point of view, it is nothing other than a clear example of not just cowardice, because it's easy to describe it as cowardice. What this is a clear example of a man whose ego cannot take it. His ego will not allow him to be sacked or to face the public knowing that he's been demoted. So he wants to claim it was illness. And exactly, Tony. Illness so much he was campaigning in Scotland last week. And this illness, by the way, is unspecified. I can't work out if it's a stomachache, gallbladder, I don't know. It's the Labour Party in Oldham seem to have this illness shield going on at the moment. We've seen Bashforth do it, where he hinted at cancer, I think, to get the sympathy vote. And now there's no reference to the cancer. What we've now got with McMahon is he makes reference to an illness. Vague, vague illness. That goes back to nearly a year, to October last year. What's that? 10, 11 months ago? And then, in what's clearly a pre-orchestrated move, Keir Starmer apparently responds and writes and publishes letter on Twitter where he thanks McMahon. And looks forward to working with him in the future. And also, Starmer makes reference to one of the reasons why McMahon apparently is stepping down is because of threats of violence. Now, let's get this right. The would-be Prime Minister has published a letter stating that one of the reasons why his shadow minister has stepped down is because he's received threats of violence. I've noticed that the Conservatives in Oldham, Lewis Quigg, Dave Arnott and his team and their team, have immediately put out a press release on social media, and I agree wholeheartedly with them. Greater Manchester Police have to protect our politicians. If James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon, according to Keir Starmer, by the way, the leader of the Labour Party, has stepped down partly because of threats of violence, then the police have to act. I know they won't act against me even though they want to, because I've never threatened violence. I've threatened taking him out at the ballot box through a fair democratic process, which is our right, my right, your right in a democracy such as ours. Now, I don't know a single person, and I'm on social media every day, I don't know a single person who's threatened JIM McMAHON with violence, and I would never support a single person who'd threaten anyone with violence, let alone an MP, a shadow minister, who's been forced to resign as a consequence of a threat of violence. So where's the statement from Greater Manchester Police? How many reports of threats of violence have they received from JIM McMAHON? How many people have they arrested, charged? Is the CPS prosecuting? I've not read anything in any newspaper. I must have missed this threat of violence. So I was horrified to read the Labour Party leader make reference to our town's MP being threatened with violence. That is, of course, if you believe that to be true. Just as if you believe it to be true, that's the reason he's resigned, even though he was going to get sacked anyway, according to every mainstream news outlet I've read or followed. Do you really believe he was ill? Do you really believe he stepped down because of a threat of violence? I'll be honest with you. I don't believe that. I believe he's been moved on, not because he didn't fulfill his role as a shadow environmental secretary well enough. I think he did reasonably well in that, particularly around the sewage thing. I think he's been moved on because the Labour Party need some distance between McMahon and the circus that follows him. Would you want to be openly engaged with a malicious blogger? Or have question marks about your relationships with whether or not or how you support it? I mean, it's his own malicious blogger, it's his own mouthpiece who's reported in his article, If Only Madam Mayor. Wilby himself has reported that McMahon provided Irish IMI with a reference. It's published. McMahon, in his letter, I think this is where some of the truth comes out, also makes reference of the need to go back to Oldham and campaign in the lead up to the election. Now answer me something. Answer me something. The man is in a Labour Party stronghold, 25,000 votes. The closest anyone's been to him is the Conservative with 13,000 last time round, and the Conservatives are clearly on the slide nationally. Why would he need to campaign for 15 months or so back in Oldham in the lead up to a general election? Or is it that what I suspect, they are scared? This is an admission by the Labour Party and McMahon in his own resignation letter that there is a serious threat to the Labour Party power base in Oldham West, Chadderton and Royton, and it is provided by myself with the support of the people of our town. Whether or not I'm going to stand, of course I'm going to stand. Throughout all of this, the last 5 years, I've been nothing other than consistent. Of course I'm going to stand. And he's coming back to fight. Well, I'm here, and you don't have to wait till next November, McMahon. Call a by-election right now. I will take you on right now. Name the date, the time, the place, call it. Call the by-election, because if you're not good enough to be a shadow minister, or if you're too ill to be a shadow minister, as you claim, then you sure as hell are not fit for purpose to be an MP. Call a by-election. We will take you on right now. Call the by-election. Call it. Let's see if I'm standing or not. Call the by-election. Bring all your block vote. Bring everyone from the Labour Party. Let's have it. You and me right now. Call the by-election. Let's see who wins. And I'm very clear on my position. It is an anti-cartel platform I will be standing on, anti-corruption, and above all, anti the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of my town's children. Because I am fighting for a public inquiry, just as much as I am fighting for the government to come in and take over the running of Oldham Council in the same way as it's took over the running of Liverpool. I've been consistent on this from the outset. But here we have James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon claiming he's ill, and that's why he stepped down and waited a year. We have Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition and would-be Prime Minister, claiming McMahon has stepped down, or suggesting McMahon step down because of threats of violence. Now, let's have the by-election. Of course he won't. You know he won't. These people won't. They will milk it for as long as possible. They'll take that wage until the last possible moment. How much does he take? 7,000, 8,000 a month? Basic? That's before his expenses. He'll take it until the last possible moment, even if he is ill, which I am sceptical over. Now, I think what McMahon should do, as a bare minimum, he owes it to everyone in his constituency, is to confirm he will actually be fighting the next general election. I know I will, so come on, McMahon, confirm it. Confirm you will be fighting the next general election as MP for Oldham. It's very easily done. Very easily done. But no. Instead, you know and I know he's going to go on and go back to ranting about me and people like you and calling us racists and far-right activists and this and that. How can we be racist and far-right activists if we want the government to come in and take over the running of our town that we believe to be infested with corruption? What part of that is racist or far-right? How can we be racist or far-right activists when we are, along with all of the opposition parties, by the way, and their councillors in this town, campaigning for a public inquiry? Because we do not believe Andy Burnham's assurance review even scratched the surface of what went on. So come on. Come on, McMahon. Stop hiding behind your councillors. We've took out 3 of them. We've took out 3 of your leaders, and we've took out, what, a dozen more Labour Party councillors across the borough? All on these issues, and all coordinated through this platform. So I'm ready. Bring the machinery of the Labour Party. Let's have it out. Call the by-election. If you have any courage, call the by-election. We'll take you on straight away. Come on, call the by-election. If you're not good enough for Keir Starmer's shadow cabinet, and this is his big boy team, it's what Starmer's as much as said. Words to that effect. This is my big boy team that I'm taking to fight the general election, and McMahon's not on his big boy team. Well, if he's not good enough for there, why is he good enough for here? And remember, this is an MP who used the leadership of the council as a stepping stone to move into that position. This is the leadership of a council of which his legacy is systematic failure. Regeneration, systematic failure. He talks the talk, but when it comes down to it, there is no substance to the man. And as we've seen today, nothing but courage. No courage either. No courage either. No courage either. I think Debbie put it up earlier. He jumped before he was pushed. Do they think you're stupid? Do they think we're stupid? Do they think we cannot see what happened today? Do we genuinely think that was a resignation? I'm ill? Do we genuinely think that his resignation was a consequence of threats of violence, and Greater Manchester Police to this day have not issued a statement? No. I think the only way back for McMahon and his political career now in Oldham is for him to clean up his mess, because this is his mess. This is his mess. And the only way back for him in the Labour Party, for him to be able to demonstrate that he's got control of the town he's MP of. Because it's clear to anyone with any political insight that Oldham is out of the control of the Labour Party, because we have ousted 3 of their leaders, one after another after another. And of course, if McMahon doesn't call a by-election, we will go into May next year and we will take this council out of the control of the Labour Party. So whilst across the country The Labour Party are like that, going from strength to strength. In Oldham, a traditional Labour Party heartland, will have taken 3 leaders out and will have taken control of the council away from the Labour Party, and will have left in place a leader, Arooj Shah, who is, well, you know what she is. The town knows what she is. And that's the question, isn't it, Denise? How many times has he been behind my arrest and plays the victim? I don't know how many times he's been behind my arrest, but I know he's called for my arrest repeatedly. But here I am, going into an election, and the leaflets are ready, by the way. The first round of leaflets, they go off to the printers tomorrow. The final round of proofreading was today. And they'll go to the printers. And we've already raised £6,000. We raised £6,000 in under 28 days in August. He knows what's coming. The Labour Party know what's coming. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to take me to court again to try and silence me. They failed with the police. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the council came along and tried to take me to court again to try and silence me. Like it's going to work. Because ours is a democracy. And in a democracy, we have the right to stand against the likes of James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon at the ballot box. We have never advocated violence. We will never advocate violence. We will beat them through engaging with our fellow citizens, raising their awareness and educating them, and making them believe, giving them hope that our town can and will be a better place, and we can remove this disease from amongst our midst. So James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon has gone. And apparently he's coming back to Oldham to fight the general election. Well, let's have it, McMahon. By-election now, if you've got the balls. You haven't, have you? So I'll tell you what. To make it easier for you, just confirm with the town. Confirm with the town that you will be contesting the next general election. It's simple, isn't it? I don't think he will. I don't think he's got the courage to stand against us. Because remember, this isn't his town. He's not from here. He's a politician that exploited this town. I am from here. You are from here. We are from here. This is my town. This is my home. And my name will be on that ballot paper. I'd wager Jim McMahon's name will not be on that ballot paper because he will not stand against me. Because I will be relentless. Justice is coming. We are taking our town back. And this morning, today, the Labour Party, in its attempts to present itself as a governable institute, as a party of government, in its attempt to do that, it distanced itself from the MP, despite him having a 20,000 voter base. So why? It's because all you need to do, all I need to do, is believe we can do this. And today was a monumental step in that. Because they don't have to mention our names, but they are scared of what we, the people of Oldham, have done to them and will do to them yet again. I'll see you on the doorsteps. We are taking our town back. My brother Jamal, I'm telling you and telling you.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.